Okay, so it's been 4 years since the biggest vaccination effort in history got underway. And a huge question is still out there. What does the long-term data really say about safety? Well, today we're going to cut through all the noise and look at the hard evidence. It's a really fair question, right? And it's one that deserves a clear, data-driven answer. The good news is, we're finally at a point where we can look past the short-term snapshots and see the big, long-term picture. And when I say big picture, I am not kidding. The answers we're about to dig into come from two absolutely massive new studies. We're talking about a combined total of nearly 74 million people. Just let that sink in. That's a scale of evidence that is just incredibly powerful. So let's not bury the lead here. What's the bottom line from this mountain of data? It's actually a message of reassurance. Looking at millions and millions of people, the evidence all points to a strong overall safety profile. So let's break down how we know that. The evidence in this explainer really rests on two giant pillars. First, we've got a study out of England that honed in on cardiovascular health in a staggering 46 million adults. And second, we have a study from France that tracked mortality, that's death from any cause, in 28 million younger adults over 4 years. All right, here's how we're going to break this all down. We'll start with that big heart health check from England. Then we'll jump over to the 4-year follow-up from France. After that, we'll put it all together to really understand this balance of risks versus benefits. And then we'll wrap it all up with the big picture. First up, let's head to England for this nationwide heart health review. And remember, this isn't some small sample group. This is a look at the health records of pretty much everyone in the country. That's right, 46 million adults. Analyzing data on this kind of scale is a game changer because it allows researchers to spot even the rarest of events and, just as important, to see the really big trends in common conditions. Now this is where it gets really interesting. This was one of the core findings. The study looked at two major types of dangerous events: arterial thrombosis, think heart attacks and strokes, and venous thrombosis, which are those dangerous blood clots. And for both of these really common, really serious problems, the risk was actually lower in vaccinated people. Now, of course, good science means being totally upfront. And the study did confirm those very rare risks that regulators have been tracking all along, things like myocarditis and a very specific clotting issue with one of the vaccines. These are absolutely real, but the key word here is rare. So when you put it all together, what's the takeaway? Well, the study's authors themselves concluded that the protective effect against the common, life-threatening stuff offers compelling evidence of a net cardiovascular benefit. The scales just clearly tip towards protection. Okay, let's pivot now to our second pillar of evidence from France. This study is so important because it shifts the focus from specific conditions to the ultimate outcome, overall survival, and it does it over a much longer period of time. So what they did here was follow nearly 29 million younger adults for almost 4 years. They compared the vaccinated group to the unvaccinated group to see if there was any difference at all in their risk of dying from any cause. And this chart just tells the story so clearly. Look at that first bar. No big surprise here, right? Vaccination was linked to a huge 74% lower risk of dying from COVID. But look at that second bar. This is the really powerful finding. Over that 4-year period, vaccinated people had a 25% lower risk of dying from any cause at all. The study's own conclusion is about as direct as it gets. After tracking millions of people for years, they found no increased risk of long-term death. In fact, they found the opposite, which they say further supports the safety of the vaccines. So let's take a step back. We have these two massive studies, and they're both pointing in the exact same direction. One shows a net benefit for your heart. The other shows a net benefit for your overall survival. So what happens when we put these pieces together? You can think of it like a set of scales. On one side, you place the small increase in risk for those very rare conditions, but on the other side, you place a significant decrease in risk for far more common, often deadly events, plus a lower risk of death overall. The balance becomes pretty clear. And this all comes down to a really crucial idea in public health called net benefit. It's not about pretending there are zero risks with anything. It's about carefully weighing those small risks against much larger, much more common benefits. And in this case, the data is showing us those benefits are substantial.
Okay, let's bring it all home and zoom out for the big picture. After going through all of this, what are the essential things you should take away from this massive body of research?
Here it is, boiled down to 4 crucial points. 1. The data we have now is massive, and it's long-term. 2. Your risk of those common killers, heart attacks, strokes, goes down. 3. Your risk of death from any cause over 4 years goes down. And 4. Those known rare risks, they're real, but they're put into perspective, completely dwarfed by these widespread benefits. So, when you step back and look at the evidence from 74 million people, the message isn't ambiguous, it's not murky, it is one of clear, data-driven reassurance on the long-term safety of these vaccines. And that leaves us with a really important question for the future. Now that we're armed with this kind of large-scale, real-world evidence, how can we use this knowledge to do better next time, to improve how we communicate and make decisions when the next public health crisis arrives? That's something for all of us to think about.